So there's this beautiful synergy that happens when we're like, here's my real.
Yeah.
Come into my space. I love you for your real too.
I love that. Here's my reel. Come into my space. I love you for your reel too.
Oh,
Somebody
yeah.
write that on a meme and put it up on Instagram.
Yeah, that's right.
That's really great. That's a good one. You need to write that down and put it on here. Welcome to Motherhood 2.0, where we're taking motherhood to the next level. I'm Dr. Christina Hibbert, your host, clinical psychologist, speaker, author, and, oh yeah, mom of 6 and mother of the year for Arizona, here to help you overcome, to become, and yes, to flourish as we grow through motherhood together instead of just going through it on our own. Be sure to visit my website, drchristinahibbert.com, as well as join our Facebook group, Motherhood 2.0. All right, everybody, let's get growing. We have a fabulous guest today. I'm about to introduce her, but I also want to make sure you know about what we've been doing lately. The minions have been hard at work. We've got lots of cool things going on. For instance, our Mom 10-10-10 challenge. This is a free challenge, but it's going to be ongoing, so you can sign up anytime. Be sure to tell your friends. You'll be part of an exclusive private Facebook group where I've also been going live to talk more about what we'll be doing in the challenge. Now, let me tell you what it is real quick. It is 10 minutes a day for 10 days, and we are going to be learning about mastery of motherhood, which is MOM, mom, and we're going to be doing the 10 zones of mastery of motherhood. That means you are going to learn the skills of self-mastery in the areas of identity and self-worth, and your time and energy and spirit and body and psyche, emotions, experiences, and relationships. Oh, and your mindset. Don't forget that. So be sure to join. It's free. It's easy. You can go to my website, drchristinahibbert.com, and you will find the little icon right on the homepage to click and join and opt into the free challenge. And then be sure to join us in the Facebook group. And the other cool thing we have coming up that I've been waiting to tell everybody about, Mastery of Motherhood Live, is coming your way very soon too. So be sure to join the challenge so you can learn more about Mastery of Motherhood Live, as well as Grow Monthly and my other courses and opportunities for you to continue to grow through motherhood with me. You can find out all about all this stuff on my website, drchristinahibbert.com. All right, you guys, I am so thrilled to introduce our guest for this week. We have a treat. We have with us Rachel Martin from findingjoy.net, correct?
That's me, .net.
.net. Okay, I want to make sure I got
.net,
that right.
because .com is a URL taken in Australia for many, many years. We've chatted with them, and I just own the .net now. I'm like, that's my territory.
I love it. I love it. It's awesome. And if you haven't been to our website, you got to go check it out. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Rachel. Rachel has done a lot of things. In fact, I first have to say she is a single mom of 7 kids, ages, what'd you say, 9?
9 to 23, almost 23, yeah.
9 to almost 23.
You still counted at 23. I'm like, is it 23, 22? Yes.
Right, exactly. Somewhere in there, right? And oh my gosh, busy,
right.
busy life. And she also believes in the power of the human spirit to overcome, to thrive, and to find deep joy. And this is what she pours into all of her work. So she is the writer behind the website, findingjoy.net. She's also the author of the book, The Brave Art of Motherhood. And her articles have been translated into, many different languages, over 25, and her site reaches millions of visitors per month. And she also has a really engaged Facebook community. Is that also Finding Joy on Facebook?
It is. If you search Finding Joy, we should pop up first, but the URL is like Finding Joy blog.
Okay.
I started it 8 years ago.
Yes, exactly, because that's what we did, right?
Yeah,
yes,
that's right.
And she's also her content has been featured on the Huffington Post, the Today Show, lots of really cool places, and she speaks worldwide, encouraging moms just like you and entrepreneurs to live each day with purpose and drive. And she lives in Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome to Motherhood, Rachel.
That's me. I welcome to motherhood. That has been my life for 23 years now, pretty much. I was a rookie every phase.
And isn't that the truth? Aren't we all rookies every phase? I think that's a great piece of wisdom right from the start, that none of us has it all figured out at any one phase. We're all just kind of doing the best we can, right?
You know what I tell people all the time, you just fake it till you make it. All of motherhood is that, like, boy, I don't know how to do this. I'm going to put on a smiley face and we're going to try. And you just figure it out.
Isn't that so true? I love that. And that's great, great wisdom. And I'm really excited to talk today about some of the topics that have been on your mind and that are important to you, because they are the things that we in this motherhood community on this show talk about all the time and we reference all the time, but we haven't really done a show specifically focused on what I'm saying, kind of that phrase of like, you're so strong, and that idea of being strong and what that really means. And I'm really excited to dialogue with you about this today. So I guess I wanted to start with that. I know you brought this up to me, that we do tend to say to other moms, oh gosh, look at what you're going through. You're so strong. You're amazing. And that word amazing, like we get that all the time, right? But what does that really mean? And where did this kind of come from in your own life? I know that this kind of came from a personal place for you, this idea of what strong really means.
Well, I think it's interesting because we throw out all the time, you're so strong, you're so strong. And all of a sudden one day for me, I was like, you know what? I really didn't want to be told I was so strong. And there's times where we mean it well, like it's an awesome place. But I also think sometimes as women or people in general, we use you're so strong as a way to like almost step out of being responsible in that situation. Mm-hmm. Like if someone said to me, you're so strong, I'm thinking, I'm strong in a place I don't really want to be strong in anymore. I'm really tired of being strong. Can't you see that I need a friend?
Yes.
And I tell moms all the time, if you find yourself saying to your friends, you're so strong, it's probably a cry to you to say, I need to step into her life, because there's a really good chance she's pretty sick and tired of being so strong all the time.
I love that.
So I use it as the alert, like, oh, maybe I'll bring her dinner. Maybe I'll show up with Starbucks or something for her instead.
So when you catch yourself saying that to someone else, you kind of stop yourself and go, wait a minute, what is really going on here? She probably needs some help if she's feeling like she has to be strong.
Strong. Yeah. Because, there's times in life where we just have to be strong. Mm-hmm. And, you have that, like if you have a sick child and you just show up. And then there's other times where we're forced we're forced to be strong, and we need someone to say, thank goodness you're so strong, but what can I do? Or just show up at the doorstep. I remember a time when I was just going through my divorce when my best friend showed up at my doorstep in Minnesota I just remember her 2 buckets of cleaning products, like right there. And she knew I would say no, like, no, I'm okay. So she just like walks in and starts cleaning.
I love that.
That's the type of friendship. I mean, I just think it's beautiful.
Yeah. So is that when you kind of came to this realization, when you were going through some of your struggles personally?
I think so. I think for a long time, it just kind of just sat there a little bit, because I went through really difficult divorce and a lot of financial issues. And plus then I had 7 kids, which adds this extra layer of you're so strong.
Oh gosh.
And I just would get all these people that would say, oh, thank goodness you're so strong. I could never do what you do. And that phrase, like, I just wanted to reply, but I'm kind of kind. I wanted to reply, I have no choice.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a choice. Like, I can't decide, I'm not going to do it because I love my family.
Yeah.
But it was also like this outcry that I realized we just need to rally around our friends when we see them in those places where they're having to hold everything together. This is the time where we can kind of maybe just step in a little bit.
Yeah, I so agree with that. And I've had those experiences too, where the same kind of thing, like, I don't know if you know, but I became a mom of 6 when my sister and brother-in-law died. And we inherited our 2 nephews right before I gave birth to my 4th baby. And so we went from 3 to 6 kids, like boom. And same thing. I was like, quote, strong and being that strong person. But thank goodness for the people that showed up to do my laundry and just, like you said, just came in and did it, and could see that really. I remember like writing in my book, This Is How We Grow, which is my memoir about that time. I remember writing that I am strong on the outside and I am fine, but I want somebody to see that really I'm not as fine as you think. I just want you to see that I can handle it, but I don't want to have to handle this all myself. Right. And so we can step in and see that as a sign of, okay, maybe this friend of mine really does need some help if they're having to feel like they have to, quote, carry quote, be strong by carrying kind of that load by themselves. We're not meant to do that.
No, and I really don't believe that we're meant to journey alone. I mean, you look at history, like for most of history, there was this camaraderie, this community, and we have this extra space now in time. There's space to spend time scrolling through Facebook versus 200 years ago, there wasn't that extra space. So there wasn't this level of, wow, like she needs to do it on her own. It was like, how can we work together, that village kind of thing, to survive basically. And now because we have that space, it's love. I mean, I always say, thank goodness we have that space. It means we're not in crisis all the time. But that extra space creates this kind of nebulous place for, well, how do we connect with other people? And I really believe this is a generation of relearning. How do we forge connections with other women in an environment where we have this space like that?
I love that. I haven't thought about that before. That space, and that we need, how do we kind of fill that? And that I definitely know about, I feel the same thing like you're saying, that lack of connection, or, it can feel very lonely and distant, especially motherhood. I feel like, I work mostly with moms, and I hear that all the time, that they're just, moms, we're lonely. We're home, we're surrounded by people all the time, but usually little people. And,
right.
Maybe you see a friend once in a while, or when you do, you feel like you have to, quote, be strong and pull it all together. And it's hard to kind of like let down and be vulnerable. And especially with social media, like, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to decorate for Groundhog Day.
Right.
Like I've got to be perfect, right? So,
right. Like when I see this stuff like 100 Day of school, all of that, like external pressure, which it's this kind of, and I've realized that when we can pick and choose. I can enter into doing that, and I don't have to. And oftentimes I just kind of go by the cues of my kids. Sometimes they're like, I really don't care. And I'm feeling the pressure of, I don't want my child to be the only one not doing whatever dress up activity at school is. And so I have to step back and realize, this for my kids, they actually are saying, I don't care. So I need to say, it's okay. We don't have to do all of this. And then there's other times where it's 8:30 at night and they're like, guess what? Tomorrow's career day. What should we dress up as? And we just do our best. And I think that's all of motherhood, is figuring out how to do our best and loving our friends that I always joke that have the Instagram picture of the white couch and the 2-year-old eating chocolate ice cream on it.
Right.
Like, praise be to you. You guys are awesome. Like, I can be great too in my way. And it's not a competition. It's just, that's what brings her joy.
That's right. That's right. I love that. It's not a competition. We cannot say that enough. It's so hard to feel like it is. We feel like it is a competition, and we easily get sucked into that. And I think that goes back to that message of feeling like we have to be strong, sometimes we really are in that place of strength, and we are coping, and we're going through tough challenges in our lives, and we really are doing our best. And like you said, you felt like this is kind of just when you were going through this situation, like, this is just what I have to do. So I'm just doing what I have to do. It doesn't feel like a miracle when you're going through it, right? But then there are other times where I think when we really want to be vulnerable and open, but we feel like we have to put on that face of I'm strong. And, maybe we feel like we really want people to reach out and see that we're, maybe we're not doing as well as we think we are, but we still kind of put on that face, or we post something smiley on Instagram or whatever it might be, because I don't know, we don't feel comfortable being vulnerable in that way. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Totally. I actually really believe it's true. When I was on the Today Show, there's a picture I put on Instagram that is unbelievably vulnerable. So it was a picture of me. My agent said, hey, take a picture right now, because behind there was the date. You know how they say today is, and it said today is November 9th, 2018. And so everyone around me is excited. And I took the picture there, but I had this like heartbreak moment. And I wrote about it with that picture, because if you just looked at the picture, you'd think she has it together. She made it. She's there. She's talking about it. But that day is also my son's birthday. And this is my son that I hadn't seen in 4 months, because he went to live with his dad. And he's 1,000 miles away from me. And so it was this dichotomy of, from the exterior, you might think she's got it together. She's fine. But behind the picture, there's this greater story, this part of me that I shared vulnerably, because I knew that otherwise there's this authenticity that we lose. And I wanted people to know, like, everybody has a story, and you can have great moments juxtaposed with moments that are really challenging.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, because I know so many listeners out there, I know you guys listening can relate to this. That moment of where, it seems like everything's all great and you've achieved, you've arrived, right? Whatever.
Right.
But really, like, there are still deep heartaches, especially as moms. There's just, it's so ever changing, and we're always kind of in flux because our kids are always in flux, and, it's just never ending, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I tell moms all the time, like, you can be the best mom ever and still get the call from school, like, hey, your child hasn't completed any homework for the quarter.
Yeah.
And it's like, for me, letting go,
Yeah.
providing the boundaries for them, knowing the independent human that is 13 years old that's making choices. And I can provide directions, boundaries, but just like you and I have to make a decision to change, to do what we want, they too have to make that decision. And it doesn't need to be like, wow, now I'm failing as a mom. It's more like, I'm a really good mom because I'm showing up, writing back emails, and letting them deal with the consequences, which sometimes is harder than, wow, looks like you got all A's again. Great job. I'm a good mom. Because
Yes.
when you're struggling, that's really a test of motherhood.
I love this. And this is such an important discussion right now. I hope everybody out there is listening to this, because you're right. It's so not about how our kids turn out or what they do. I'm working on my book right now is Mastery of Motherhood. And the
Love
point
that.
is that the fruit of motherhood it's not perfection. It's not what we do or how we act out here. It's the fruit of motherhood is not how your kids turn out. It's how we turn out. Motherhood's here
that's so
for
good.
us to grow, right? And so,
Right.
but it's so easy to get caught up in that idea of, oh my gosh, my kid's failing, or my kid said this to someone, or broke up with a girl on a text message or whatever. And so I'm a terrible mother. And then we kind of beat ourselves up. And I think that adds to that feeling of being, quote, weak, that we feel like, oh, I'm weak because I'm not a good enough mother because my child didn't succeed, or, I can't handle this or whatever. When we have our moments of emotional breakdown, which we do, but that's not what weakness is, really.
Right. I think the strength comes in when we can share the weak parts and know that, like, when you share it with me, it doesn't mean like I think of you as stronger because you're willing to admit the places of vulnerability. And then it gives you and each of our friends a place where we can step in. If they know I'm overwhelmed with cooking dinner back when I was a single mom, it gives them an opportunity to step into my life. If I'm fine, it's no big deal, it doesn't matter. Nobody knows how to enter it. And it's easy to think, well, nobody cares. But the truth is, I haven't dropped on the masks to let somebody even step into that space. So there's this beautiful synergy that happens when we're like, here's my real. Well, come into my space. I love you for your real too.
I love that. Here's my reel. Come into my space. I love you for your reel too.
Oh,
Somebody
yeah.
write that on a meme and put it up on Instagram. That's
right.
That's really great. That's a good one. You need to write that down and put it on your social media. But that is so true. And I think, so what you're saying is so important, because I feel like there's these two components we've been discussing. One is how we as friends and how our friends can look and see that the strength is maybe just the mask today, or maybe they really are being strong. But that, again, like you said, that's the signal that, they probably need some extra help, and I'm just going to step in. And on the flip side, then there's us individually needing to work on that idea of, like you said, I think strength is actually letting that weakness in. And I agree. I always say, I think strength is really being vulnerable. It's allowing yourself to be vulnerable enough to see what needs to change and what needs help and what needs work and whatever. So let's talk about that piece first, and then we'll talk about how maybe friends can kind of help. But like, what are your thoughts on, for everybody listening, the mom out there who's struggling right now and thinking, gosh, yeah, I want to be real, but I don't know where to begin. I don't know how to do that. Or I feel like people aren't going to accept me or understand me, or I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it depends on the environment, honestly. Like, if you're a working mom and you have to have a level of professionalism, I mean, it's not like you can go into work and be like, listen, I'm falling apart, all of that. Yeah. And there was a documentary about Katy Perry that I think is profound. Is one time she was right before she was going to perform, they showed this clip of her like distraught. Her boyfriend just broke up with her. Like she is broken down. And 30 seconds later, like she goes on this elevator up into a stadium to sing and instantly was on.
Wow.
Like distraught because and that to me was like, that's motherhood.
Yeah.
How many times where we're totally distraught, it's crazy, and then the teacher calls, we're like, hey, how's it going? It's good. Or we walk into the doctor's office and we hold it together. So I think that the vulnerability, you have to, obviously, it's not like we can be walking around sharing everything, Starbucks employees. It's discernment that way. But I also really believe that you have to cultivate spaces for that realness to come through, that heart that we sometimes deny as moms, like, it doesn't matter, I'll take care of me when the kids are older. Yeah. We have to be diligent. We can be real with everybody else, where we can say, this is who I am. And maybe it's just like, I'm going to start running again. I'm going to join a running club, finding a space where people love who we are.
I love that. And you mentioned space earlier and how we have more space in life for these other little things. So maybe that's a good space to start to fill with how, like, practicing being real a little bit. I don't know.
Well, and, what's funny about that is we have more space, but if you're like me, I'm a pro at being perpetually busy. I could be busy all the time. And then someone would say, oh, do you have time? I'm like, I'm too busy. And I always say, let's re-examine busy. Am I really busy in places that really fulfill me, or am I just busy to hide from what I need to do, or to make myself be like, you can't get after me for not getting something done because look what I did. Yes. And I always say, you have to examine your busy. Is it busy that is urgent, or is it like busy that just makes you feel good and is a time filler?
Such a good question and such an important point, because I agree. I think we kind of wear busyness as like a badge of honor, in a sense. Like, if you're, especially as a mom, if you're busy, that means you're doing the job right. You're getting it done,
like the Girl Scout badge.
Right. Right, exactly. Like, I've earned all these badges for all the different things I'm doing.
Did you see my silverware drawer? Look how organized.
Exactly. And in the meantime, like, maybe all the stuff out here is getting done and looking great, but what's going on inside, right? So you're right. I think that space has to come like internally, right? Like, we have to make space inside of us and allow ourselves to like slow down and look inside and see what needs some work and rest too.
But it's hard. I mean, I know, it's hard to be introspective if you're hiding from things that you need to change, or if you're like I wrote about being a good mom, but losing being happy. And the number of moms that would write in saying, first of all, they'd be like, thank you for being so brave. That was so risky to say, but I feel the same. And I thought, if we're all feeling it, but it takes that moment of going, wow, look at where I am, and then not using it as like shame. Because I think shame denies truth. It distorts the truth of what needs to be done. It makes us stuck. And so instead of going, well, I'm a bad mom, I'm failing, it's more like, okay, this is my starting point. I'm worth fighting for tomorrow or for today or for that little bit of happiness.
I love that. Shame denies truth. And that's so true and so powerful. And I hope everybody out there is listening to that little nugget. Shame denies truth. And it's so true. So as a psychologist, I work with mostly women and moms. And over the years, I started to see this pattern, right? So these moms, and I always talk about self-worth because I feel like that's underlying all of this stuff we're talking about, being real and being willing. And they would come in and say, like, I know up here that I'm good enough, or like what you're saying is true, these positive things, but I don't feel it down here. And I feel like that's part of that disconnect. And so I started working on a method, like, how do you help somebody actually feel their true worth and actually be able to go to that vulnerable place and say, you know what, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, and I got to own these. So to me, it's like I created this pyramid of self-worth. And the first step is self-awareness, to be able to, like you say, stop and actually look at yourself. You have to be willing to do that. But the second really important part is self-acceptance. Like, we have to practice that. And it's like, I always say, it's never ending. We're never done accepting little pieces of ourselves. And only until we've done those things, then we can start to practice self-love. And that's kind of my take on it. But I'm so with you on that we have to be willing to, first of all, do the work, slow down, see the things. Otherwise, we're going to stay busy. We're not going to want to slow down and see, because we don't want to do the work. We're not ready.
Right. And I love what you were saying about owning. Like I've written about being overly sensitive, but that's actually the gift that if people would say it negative sometimes, like stop being so sensitive, you take it too seriously. But then I realized that's the part of me that allows me to write. That is the part that connects with people, that can feel a situation. And so instead of looking at it like I need to change it, I realized this is just who I am. I need to understand this part of me and be okay with it. Understand that sometimes I need to excuse myself from a situation, but know that it's not necessarily a negative thing, and then just kind of embrace that personality type that I was born with.
Yes, I love that. Being willing to see that and then embrace it. And let your kids see that, and that gives them permission to do the same, right? Then they don't feel like they have to be perfect or,
Right. Oh, my kids teach me that I don't need to be perfect all the time.
Yeah.
I wrote a daughter, which I always joke about. Your kids' names are really kind of things that you need in life. So
Yes.
Grace has taught me grace, like the idea of grace. But she taught me the perfect lesson on perfectionism one time. She said, do you know, Mom, that at the end of the quarter for my GPA, my 93A counts the same as my 99A? And I thought, oh, that's so profound. She goes, so I know I have an A, so I'm going to work to get the other grades up that I need to. And I thought, this is so true. Like I could spend my whole life trying to get to 99 or 100 and miss out on things. So
That's
it's this
so
kind
smart.
of
I love
balance.
that. Such
I know, I love
wisdom.
her.
Oh, don't you love it when your kids just put you right in your place and share that negative wisdom?
Sometimes I'm like, what? No.
Okay, you're right. Not when they put you in your place, but yeah, when they share the wisdom, that's a good thing, right?
I'm sure your kids too. Sometimes mine are like, so Mom, I know what you wrote last week, but this isn't matching up. I'm like,
Yeah, that's a little tricky when you put stuff out there and they're like, wait a minute, that's not real. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
that's right. That's right. Or my daughter will be like, my friends follow you on Instagram. And I'm like, oh, this is such an interesting world we live in.
I know. So weird, huh? I know. It's so funny.
And then I'm partially honored, like, wow, a 17-year-old thought to follow me. That's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I kind of like that's pretty flattering, right? Yeah.
You gotta write something cool about teenagers.
That's right. Right. Connect with them on their level, what they need to hear. I love that. Obviously, you're a cool mom if they're following you because, that's the sign nowadays. So
yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's
Even though I don't get half the memes, they'll be like, they'll introduce one and they'll say, isn't this funny? And I'll say, no. And then they'll find one and they'll say, this one's about 10 years old. You'll probably like it. And then I think it's funny.
That is so true. I have 2 kids who are so into memes and I'm just like, I do not get it. I don't get it.
Thank you. You know what I love about that though, talking parenting, is that they try to connect. Like they want us to see it. And I love that that's their language. That's how they communicate with their friends. Even though I have no clue why it's funny, I just go, that's great.
Very cute. I'm funny, right? I think.
And they're like, it's not meant to be funny. I'm like, oh,
right. Oh yeah, of course. It's very serious. Thank you. Yes. I love that. I love that. And I love just the realness that you're talking about being with our kids too, because that's another part of it. And I know a lot of moms out there listening might feel like they struggle with that piece too. It might not just be out here or on social media or with friends, but even in front of kids. I know, I've heard that so many times from moms like, well, I don't want them to see me cry, or I don't want them to see me fail, or I don't want them to see me whatever. But that's a great place to practice some of that space of sort of self-acceptance and self-awareness is with our kids. And we also teach them too, right? And it sounds like that's what you do.
I do. I actually just wrote an entire post about to my kids, when you see me cry.
Oh,
because
I love that.
I just needed them to know, like, it's that humanness. Like there is this element of, I'm a human still, and they are too. So when I exercise and share my human self, and they understand, that goes back to that grace. They can see, like, maybe I did have a bad day, or maybe the other day I like on the way to school, I gave a talking to my 9-year-old, but I ended it with, I really love you, Sam. Have a great day. And it's this balance of, maybe I failed today or dropped the ball or whatever it is, but I don't have to stay there. So that's the power is, like, I give the example going back to Sam. There was a weekend where he was home and he wanted to play this Star Wars trivia game. And I kept going, in a minute, in a minute, in a minute. Come Monday, I look at the table and it was set up and he had packed it up. And we had never played. So like dagger, knife in the heart, like the whole thing. So
Mm.
then he gets home from school and I said, "Hey, do you want to play this game?" We played it and he's like, "You're the best mom ever." So I could have thought, wow, I'm the worst, but I really realized to him, I did it. So it's that letting go of the guilt, learning from it, and trying your best.
I love that. I love that so much. And I'm thinking back to what you said before about kind of owning what's real. And I think so. There's these moments where we are maybe feeling like we are not doing the best job as
Right.
moms or whatever. And we just need to face up to it and apologize. And then it can turn into a beautiful experience, like you just said. And I hope everybody will go check out your post because that sounds like a beautiful post. Do my children when I cry, when they see me cry?
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah. When they see me cry. Yeah.
On
I just, it's a,
findingjoy.net. So yeah.
yep.
Yeah. And
Yeah. I
then
just,
go
no,
ahead. Go ahead.
no, I'm good.
You're
Yeah.
good. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, on the flip side of that is something else. Like you said that you actually are a classical piano player. And I love that you also bring up the point of, showing our kids our greatness. I think that honestly, when I talk about self-acceptance, I feel like there's so many of us as moms that we almost have a harder time accepting our strengths and our, as I say, our exceptionality. Like that's the hardest part for us to like say, I'm good at this. And then to
Right.
show our children and to show others and to get out there and shine instead of feeling like we have to shrink back because we don't want other people to feel like, we're too bright.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think it goes back to sometimes, and I don't know if you have it or your listeners too, like if you excel, you wonder like who's in the back of the room saying, who does she think she is? And I just don't want, first of all, my mission is that we aren't a culture of women that does that. We're the culture that says, way to go, and cheers our friends across the finish line because, when you have a moment like that, you want your friends there. You want them high-fiving you, but it means that we have to high-five our friends back.
Mm-hmm.
And for the kids, so my parents taught me, they gifted me with piano lessons my entire childhood. And would be almost saying, whatever, like if I gave it up.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to continue playing the piano, it's just my stress reliever. It's where I think it's not only kind of honoring my parents, but it's also showing my kids that I can be a great mom. I can be a great, have a great business, but I also have this part of me, and they love it. They'll say to me, "We love it when you play the piano, Mom." And I'm playing Mozart,
Oh,
and
I love that.
they'll be like, and I'm not cleaning, I'm not cooking, I'm not playing with them, I'm not working, I'm just playing the piano. And I think that it's important for us. It doesn't need to be piano. It could be gardening. It could be whatever, but it teaches our kids to, as they get to be an adult, not lose that part of them that we as parents want them to find. Like we're always like, figure out who you are. It's okay if you don't like it. Try, figure out what makes you happy. And then if all of a sudden they see their parents and we don't have it anymore, it's a dichotomy. So I love that they can see my mom likes to run. She goes out and runs. They can see us taking care of ourselves because it teaches them to take care of themselves their entire life.
That is so true and such a powerful message because we talk about self-care all the time, as I'm sure you do on your blog, because holy cow, that is probably the biggest topic for moms, right? We struggle so much with that. And you make such an important point that as we care for ourselves and as we let our kids see that, not just hide and do it when they're not around or when they're asleep, they learn to do that for themselves too, right?
Right. And I think that it's without guilt. Like sometimes we think, I feel guilty because I went for, I worked out, but the kids had to watch Netflix or something like that.
Yeah.
But there isn't guilt about that. There really is this kind of owning that if you're going to grow in one space, you have to let go a little bit in another space. And it's just being proud of both of it, not feeling shame, not allowing that, but knowing that I'm a better mom when my tank is full. I always tell people, when your van gets to whatever, where you have 2 miles left, there's no way you're going to think, I'm going to push it another 50 miles. We're just going to keep going because we know it's going to wear out. It's going to die on the road. Yet I think as moms, we're like, you know what? I'm totally exhausted. I have no energy, but sure, I'll volunteer. Like we don't have the same
so true
mode. Like I'm like, you have to fill up your tank to be able to give. I'm a better mom when I'm not running on empty.
Thank you for that. I think we hear that from people, but I think we need to hear it like every day, all the time. And I think the more we say it, the more people are going to hear and listen, right? And feel the same. It's
I
so
think,
important.
and when we high five our friends, like
That's
if you
right.
went running and I was like, and you posted about it, it doesn't need to be me going, wow, I'm a failure today. I didn't go run. It should be me saying, way to go. I'm so proud of you
Yes.
for running.
Yes, yes. And so that's where we can change. We can not only see where other people are struggling and they're having to be strong, and we can reach out and sort of help them bear the burdens that they bear. But also on the
Right.
flip side, part of that is actually seeing their strengths and when they really are strong because they're like living into their potential and what they're meant to do,
Right.
and be happy for them and cheer them on.
Yeah, I love that part. I mean, I just think
Ah,
that's
so important.
so it's so needed. And if
Yeah.
you have people telling you I feel alone, and that's probably the number one email I get all the time. I
Mm,
feel so alone. I
mm,
feel so alone. And then I'll
mm,
tell them, so you have to put yourself out there. You have to be the friend to somebody else that you need in your own space.
mm.
And it really does mean like they'll say, "Well, I don't have any friends." And I'll say, "Well, you have to decide to go to that yoga, to go meet with the moms at Starbucks, to go do something. You have to put yourself into a situation where you can meet people." I think we believe they're just going to come in automatically. It's more us deciding we're going to be a friend to somebody else, and then it becomes that kind of reciprocity.
Absolutely. That is so true and so important. And as we're talking about strength, I mean, talk about strength. When you can serve somebody else or love somebody else or reach out to somebody else, especially in those moments when you feel like nobody's there for you, you find that they really love you too, and you get that back. And also that's
Right.
that's a great way to kind of like build up our own confidence, our own strength, and kind of reaching out for others and asking for help. I think that's another challenge when it comes to mothers, is just that idea of reaching out and saying, I need a friend, or I need help, or I need somebody to be happy for me, or whatever, asking for what we need.
Right. The 3 a.m. friend that you could call at any
Mm,
time, or, and I really do believe that if we can flip the paradigm that reaching out is a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness,
yes.
then there's this whole culture change. And it takes all of us. It takes us all just giving that breath, deciding, you know what, we're kind of worth this moment. Or it also takes kind of being the friend that's willing to say the hard things, like,
Hmm.
you can do this right now. And I know it's hard, and I'm going to run with you, and I'm not going to quit. I mean, I think
Hmm.
about my midwife when I was in labor. She knew I had to complete the task
Mm,
basically.
yes.
And when I wanted to quit, she would grab my face with her hands and be like, "You can do this. You're not going to quit, and I'm going to be here the entire time with
Hmm.
you."
Mm,
And I really want us to be women that like are empathetic
mm,
and understand things, but don't allow us to wallow. Because I think
yes.
that's just another place where it could be easy to kind of just sit there and be apathetic. But I also know the power in women deciding, you know what, we're going to rise up, we're going to be strong together in this way. So it's kind of
Absolutely.
that duality.
I love that. And I know that's what your community is all about, right? I mean, trying to build this and have a place for women to come and to learn these things together and to support each other and to become, a tribe for one another, right?
It totally is. I guard that space so much because it's not about competition. It's not about comparing. I mean, what
Mm,
I always say is everybody's story is different. That's the cool part, is if we all had the same story, it would be so boring.
mm,
And everybody's story is different, and you can love each mom for their story. Doesn't mean you need to change
mm,
your story. You can love them for their point of view, for their story. You can support them, and it doesn't need to be like where there's infighting or any of that. So I guard this space. It's like this sacred space for
mm.
moms and women to be their authentic selves, to really go after their heart and dreams, and to be the best mom that they can be at the same time.
I love that. So I hope everybody is going to go check out your blog, first of all,
Thank you.
findingjoy.net, and also your Facebook community to join that, because I know that that's a really good place to be, for moms to connect with each other and get to share and support one another in a whole different way. And, just kind of as we're wrapping up here, what about the mom? Like, what do you want to say to the mom out there? Because as we're talking about being strong and feeling strong, and I'm sure there are some out there that are feeling like, you know what, I wouldn't be the one that somebody would be looking at to say that I have a great talent. And I wouldn't be the one even that somebody would look at and say, gosh, I'm going through a lot and you're so strong. And maybe they
Right.
do feel like they're just weak or maybe forgotten or missed or, maybe not as capable as they really are. I don't know. What are your thoughts for moms out there that might be feeling that way as we're talking about this as we wrap up?
Well, there you're not alone is the first part. Is it's very easy to just believe that you're alone on this journey of motherhood and or just in life. And I believe that we all have a different type of talent, different skill set, different place that we shine, a different way that we can impact somebody's life, and we sometimes don't even realize the impact that we have. And our kids, I wrote a quote about, it was about a year ago, about I'd gone to my son's school auditorium and he was singing up the front in the front. And I wrote basically, it was like today in an auditorium full of parents, my son scanned the room. He wasn't looking for the perfect parent. He was looking for his mom.
Oh, I love that. That's so
And
good.
if you ever go to a kid's performance and you watch it, those kids will come in and they will look the entire space and they will look for you.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling like I'm just not measuring up, there's the kids look for you. And I also tell moms all the time, I know that there's some moms that can't be in that auditorium and because they're working or whatever, and you're just as much a good mom because there's this power and nobility and knowing what you need to do in those situations. Like if you have to work at that time, you're providing for that child that's singing at that time. So
Right.
it's this balance. So if you're in this space, I remind you to look back at those notes that your kids leave you, the little things they say, and then to dare to find your heart again. Because I think a lot of it comes back to that is just daring for a moment to figure out, what do I love? You ask a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old, they can tell you quickly, I'm going to be an engineer. I'm going to go to the moon. I'm going to do it. And they don't put hesitations or parameters on it. They are absolutely certain. And I truly believe our hearts, that part of us never goes away. I think that midlife crisis is a disservice. I think it's just this place of re-examining. Like, I don't tell my 20-year-old, you figured out who you were at 10.
Yeah,
Like, I
exactly.
understand. Same with being 30, same with being 40. So if you're at this place where you're like, I just don't know, then it's like this golden opportunity. Here you are presented with figuring it out.
I
And
love
don't
that.
be afraid of that.
I
So,
love that. I love that. And so encouraging for anybody out there. I feel like we've kind of touched on pretty much where anybody could be today when it comes to feeling strong or vulnerable or weak or whatever. I think we did a pretty good job of that. And you
we'll give
shared some.
ourselves a 93A today.
Exactly. We got a 93. I love that. I'm totally going to remember that and use that, especially for you perfectionists out there. You don't have to
Yeah.
get to 99%, right? An A is an
Yeah.
A, right? So, yes, I'm so grateful that you were here, Rachel, and so many nuggets. I loved what you just said about, like, dare to re-examine your heart. And I think that's a beautiful note to wrap up on for anybody out there. All the moms listening today, listen to Rachel Martin and her wonderful
Oh,
wisdom
you're
and
so
write
kind.
notes and write it down and go and follow her and go to her website, findingjoy.net. Because and get your book too. I mean, amazing, so that they can learn all these different ways with you. This has been really, really important. And I really think that message of dare to re-examine your heart is one that we moms need over and over and over, when our children, because I was thinking, even when you said, when they leave you the cute little notes, I'm thinking, I'm sure there are some moms out there that are like, I have teenagers that hate me right now, so
Right.
it's like, I
Right.
don't get
If they
notes
show you
anymore.
a meme, it's right there. Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. So it's okay. It's okay to feel sad about that. It's okay to examine your heart and see that, you know what, I'm grieving over this, that I don't have this with my children right now, or I'm grieving that I'm an empty nester, or I'm, whatever you're going through. And then when it's your time to kind of step up and share your strengths in the world, you do that. And then when you need to kind of go back and refigure things out, you do that too, right?
Absolutely. I think life is like a wave, ebb and flow, up and down. And there are seasons where you're like, oh, this is so hard. But there's going to be a season where you're at the top part again. And going back to the teenager part, my son, it's now been 7 months since I've seen him. And I love him with every bit of my heart, every single thing. And I show up for him the way I can. And I know that this is just part of the story. It wasn't what I pictured life to be like, is it? But I can find joy in this part of it. And so for those moms with teenagers like that, where it's the silence is deafening, I just want to say, just keep showing up. You're a good mom, because sometimes they don't tell us it back, but they remember. My 23-year-old came back to me one day and she said, you know what, Mom, I remember playing cards with you at the lake and that really mattered. Simplest little moment. Never knew it for 20, whatever, at that point, 22 years.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden she says it.
And that's what we all hope for when they come back and say, I really did appreciate you all those years, right?
I really like that you taught us to play that gambling card game at the lake.
Well, you're obviously a fun mom, so there you go. But what a great way to end. And everybody out there, just keep that message. I think what Rachel just said is the most important thing, that you are, as I always say, you are doing better than you think you are. And that motherhood is really just about growing through it, and hopefully not just going through it, So just like you said, it's an opportunity, right? Keep looking for the opportunities to grow through your motherhood experience, right?
Very good.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And I know everybody's going to go check out your blog post, your website, your book, everything. So everybody go follow Rachel. And I hope we stay connected. I'd love to have you back again. I know there's just so much more in there that I just want to know about from you.
That'd be awesome. I'd love it.
That'd be so fun. Okay, awesome. And until next time, everybody, keep growing through motherhood and keep coming back here to Motherhood podcast, radio, TV, so that we can grow together, because it's a lot better to do it together, as Rachel was saying today, than to do it alone. And that's what we do here on Motherhood each week. So we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.